So good evening. Thank you for being in attendance for this budget presentation meeting on December 19th of 2022. This is an extraordinary session for the adoption of the budget, followed by a second extraordinary session, since, as per law, only the annual budget must be adopted alone during an extraordinary session. The following public meeting will be for a filming permit. And also, as said in the law, only questions relating to the agenda will be received. So with regards to a financial portrait of the town at this point, the city is doing very well financially. The 2022 financial statements were accompanied by an unqualified auditor's presentation letter. This is a first since 2013, and we are grateful for the work done by the organization, the Treasury Department, and the previous council. So thank you. Last year, the property assessment roll was updated for the entire town, as is done every 3 years. The current roll is for the years 2022, 2023, and 2024, and this will be updated again in 2025. In 2022, the land value for the town of Hudson increased by almost 24% in comparison to the previous 3-year roll. Since municipal taxes are a function of the value, taxes increase proportionally. In Hudson, there are 3,070 assessment units, including 2,400 dwellings. According to the summary available online, the total property value in 2022 is $1,579,083,100. Compared to the standardized property wealth given online by the MAMASH, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, for 2021, this represents an increase of almost $250 million, and that is 19%. So if that gives you a sense on how taxation works, or where the increases come, a part of it come from the property value, and others will come from a change in cost. So also, according to other data available on the MAMASH website, there was an increase of 148 inhabitants between 2021 and 2022 for a total of 5,567 residents, and this represents an increase of 2.7%. So the choice we made last year to smooth out the high rate of increase of property evaluations over a few years, the council decided to reduce the rate of taxation while the increase in tax bills was on average less than 3%. This year, an amount of $100,000 will be taken from the unallocated surplus for the same purpose, as well as an amount of $600,000 from the working capital and unaffected surplus for capital projects. This will be explained later. The increase that some of you may find on the value of your property this year are established by the chartered appraiser and are most often due to the improvements identified by the appraiser whose contract is managed by the MRC. This is the Regional County Municipality of Vaudreuil-Soulanges. The requests for revisions are well described and supervised by the MRC, and I invite you to visit their website for more information. With regards to the budget preparation process this year, Council was involved on many levels. We had put in place a budget tracking committee at the onstart of the year. We met 4 times between March and August. The mandate of this committee was to set up a dashboard for regular monitoring of the implementation of the Council's objective in finance and asset management. In June, I and another councillor met with Steve Farrell, who's actually here in this room, to go through his most pointed questions and comments relating to how we could improve on reporting of council's results and budget directions. It was reiterated that the city needs to compare its performance to the actual results of the previous and current year and not simply measure itself against budget. And that is still being the process that is in place. Our Director General by interim, who is here today, Martin Houd, came into office in early September of 2022. About a month later, he began analyzing the budgets prepared by the various departments of the town. The orientations of council were, we had a working meeting on October 24th, and those notes were sent to Martin Houd following. The presentation of the recommendations of the Director General were presented to Council on December 3rd of 2022. And in preparation to this meeting, the Interim Director reviewed each variance in the presented budgets that were exceeding the previous budget by $3,000. We also held then another working meeting with council members on December 8th, and those notes were also sent to the Director General the following day. A last and final working meeting was held between the council members and our Director General on December 12th to review the critical points that were raised by council members and to reaffirm our orientations. Consensus was reached, which led to the budget presented for adoption this evening. So with regards to the increases this year, so as I mentioned earlier, there were the property values that you may see change on your own assessment roll. There is also the long-term debt increased by $5 million in February of 22. This is the amount that was incurred for the improvements of Main Street in the Village Core and Bellevue Street in 2021. Although this work took place in 2021, the disbursements were completed this year and the actual amount was funded this year. Contracts with suppliers of goods and services have increased, mainly due to rising fuel prices and labor shortages. The budget items with the largest increases are salaries and benefits, legal services, professional services, snow removal, abrasives and salt, and heating oil costs. Professional services, including legal fees and external urban planning expertise to support the process of residential development in better balance with the natural environment, were also, as mentioned earlier, an increase. Human resources, the increases come for the amount of approximately $365,000, which is planned for internal reorganizing. Also, negotiation of collective agreements with the blue-collar workers and the firefighters, upgrading of the management salaries, and the workforce attraction and retention program, and the regular evolution of employees and their salary scales. With regards to taxations of services such as water, sanitation, and waste, the largest increase was in the Whitlock West area due to improvements to the water treatment plant for the sector. And I mean the used water, so the sewage treatment plant of the sector. So what worked well this year? The roads, in addition to adding the final layer of asphalt between Cameron and Beach, the correction of some pavements and drainage points, and other spot improvements such as the addition of a catch basin at Main and Cedar in the central area on Main, over 5.3 kilometers were improved, including the widening of Main Street by almost 2 kilometers. And 850 meters of resurfacing between Côte St. Charles and St. James Church, as well as the resurfacing of 4 sections of pavement and 260 meters of paving between Westwood Seniors, the school, and Main Road. What did not work so well in 2022 was the implementation of the committee's dashboard, allowing for sound management and better governance practices in terms of budget monitoring. The budget preparation calendar was also once again compressed, but this is mostly due to the fact that we transferred or transitioned director generals. So we can only continue to get better in these ways. What will be improved and opportunities to be seized for 2023. So with regards to budget amendments, and what I mean by these is when there is a set budget at the beginning of the year and the changes, the reallocations that happen during the year, these will be passed through our Director General by interim before they are entered into the system, and all amendments will be approved by him and made available to Council on a monthly basis for information. Also, there will be internal restructuring to improve on the delays in the delivery of permits that were incurred this year due to the shortage of manpower throughout our town, but also in the rest of the region in Quebec. We will bring back our urban planning director on a full-time basis to the urban planning department and add a person to take charge of recreation, culture, and economic development department in order to better support the commercial sector and to continue to improve the events and services of this department. With regards to Council's orientations, Council requested that a program for streamlining activities be initiated in January of 2023 with a small internal committee to monitor its implementation with the aim to continue to support controlled spending, and that an external expert be commissioned early in the year to serve as a governance tool for Council to validate the financial health of the city in the short, medium, and long term, to target opportunities for improved performance balance how much extra time is acceptable on some projects and what level of debt is realistic in the long term, and at what rate are the proposed projects for spending in a controlled manner. What would be acceptable for an amount of overtime, and what would be realistic level of long-term debt, and at what pace can capital projects be undertaken for a city of our size and ability to pay. With regards to Council's projects for 2023, we will continue with roads and complete the top layer on Main East, and also work on the improvement of Lakeview. The maximum intervention report should be completed and presented to Council in early of 2023. Also, we will be implementing a circulation committee who will review the requests and expectations and the needs of residents compared to the conditions of the streets and pipes identified through the maximum report. Also, in terms of other civil engineering projects for 2023, the plans and specifications for the Pine Lake rehabilitation with the request for certificates of authorizations will take place, and also the delivery of plans and specifications for the culvert under Main and the resurfacing between St. Thomas School and Mount Pleasant. The reconstruction of the McNaughton Bridge, which will be slightly longer so that the footings are outside the Vivery River protection zone. Also, we will continue to look to do the revisions of the urban planning bylaw related to the environment and heritage preservation, and also begin a master plan for parks, trails, and green spaces. We will also continue to support the implementation of a cultural development and heritage protection policy integrated with the city's economic development potential. So in conclusion, we're delighted with the quality of citizen participation, which brings excellent expertise to complement the work of our municipal experts. The exchanges are patient, they are constructive and respectful. I ask that you all continue in this vein and to understand that Hudson has a lot of employees, asks a lot of its employees and its directors, and of course of its council. I understand that doubt and lack of trust in the organization due to our past history still hangs over our heads. But as I frequently tell council members, it is important that we rebuild this trust together in a way that is sustainable, that is fair and sensible. The quality of life in Hudson is special and valuable. We hold an emotional attachment to the beautiful landscapes and natural environments, and to a well-tended built environment and a vibrant village center and a warm experience. This comes at a cost, and we do not have the same economy of scale as other larger towns do in order to substantially improve the efficiency of our most important budget items. It is possible that Hudson will never be able to drop below the average trend in spending or tax burden as we continue to choose this quality of life and level of service. However, would we be willing to let go of some services, perhaps rethink skating rinks and cross-country trails, the community pool, community events, and that will help and lower the town's operating budget? On a larger scale, we'll have to continue to be innovative and conscious of every dollar we spend. This next year will be a year of planning, especially of changing urban planning bylaws and internal restructuring. Also, through the governance tools that we wish to acquire and through a strategic planning process, we will be better equipped towards the end of the year to define the level of service that is expected from citizens according to our ability to pay. In conclusion, the city is doing very well, and we continue to be blessed by the attractiveness, vitality, and charm of this exceptional environment. So with this, we will proceed with the rest of the agenda. And thank you for your patience in listening through my very long-winded message. So for the adoption of the agenda, I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault, seconded by Peter Mate, that the agenda of this special council meeting be adopted as presented. En français.
Il s'agit de l'adoption de l'ordre du jour de la séance extraordinaire de ce soir, la première séance, celle qui est prévue à 19h30.
Merci. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So moving on to item 3, presentation of the 2023 budget and 2023, 2024, and 2025 program of capital expenditures. Our treasurer, Pierre Charron, will present the details of the 2023 operating budget and the capital works budget for 2023, 2024, and 2025. En français? Jusqu'à la traduction en français. Oui.
Le trésorier Pierre Charron va présenter les détails du budget pour l'année 2023 ainsi que le programme triennal d'immobilisation 2023, 2024 et 2025 de la Ville.
Merci. Je te cède la parole, Pierre. Vas-y.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Bonsoir à vous. Ça me fait plaisir de présenter un 4e budget auquel j'ai participé avec l'aide de tous les directeurs. Fait qu'on y va d'abord avec la diapositive concernant les revenus de fonctionnement. Je vais procéder par année pour que ce soit plus facile à suivre. Au niveau des revenus, en budget 2022, nous avions en taxe foncière générale 8 887 200. En taxe de la dette sur l'ensemble, 1 206 100. Je vais seulement avec les principaux. Là. Il y avait taxe de service, aqueduc, égout, matières résiduelles, 1 810 600. Ensuite, d'important, il y avait l'imposition des droits de mutation, 1 250 000 et les intérêts, 230 pour un grand total de 14 311 400 en termes de budget 2022. Au niveau des estimations, au moment où on a préparé le budget, en taxe foncière générale, nous sommes rendus à 9 012 000 En taxe sur la dette à l'ensemble, 1 233 700. Les services d'aqueduc, égout et matières résiduelles, 1 895 573. Ensuite, au niveau des droits de mutation, 2 100 et les intérêts, 530 000 qui sont principalement dus à notre haut niveau d'encaisse actuellement. Pour un grand total de 16 22 337. Juste un commentaire, je reviendrai un petit peu plus tard, là, mais c'est surtout la base d'évaluation, toutes les constructions qui ont eu lieu en 21 qui se reflètent dans la taxation des ajustements de taxes et de mutations en cours d'année. Pour 2023, on prévoit 9 millions au niveau de la taxe foncière générale, 9 564 500. La taxe sur la dette à l'ensemble, 1 312 200. Comme la mairesse l'a dit, il y a eu un emprunt important en février 2022. Ensuite, au niveau de services d'aqueduc, égout et matières résiduelles, 2 37 200 est prévu. Ensuite, l'imposition des droits, 1 900 000, c'est un petit peu moins que ce qu'on avait connu en 22. Et l'intérêt, une légère baisse parce qu'on a quand même des projets qu'on a fait cette année en infrastructure et qu'on paye comptant. Fait que c'est 516 400 pour un grand total de 16 322 600. Fait 332 600. Fait que c'est une augmentation d'à peu près 310 000 par rapport à l'estimation 2022. Le gros de l'augmentation a été vécu, connu en 2022. En 2023, il y a certains ralentissements qui peuvent être prévus au niveau des constructions. Au niveau des charges, Laura. Au niveau des charges, en 2022, l'administration générale, 2 286 165. Sécurité publique, 3 303 100. Au niveau des transports, 2 643 550. L'hygiène du milieu, 1 900 000. Santé bien-être, 68 200. Aménagement, urbanisme et développement, 843 300. Loisirs et culture, 1 445 925. Loisirs et culture inclut entre autres tous les frais pour les parcs. Et le financement, 753 800. Ce ne sont que les frais de financement, donc les intérêts. Le grand total, 13 244 040. L'estimation 2022, au niveau de l'administration générale, on est un peu en deçà du budget, 2 254 704. Sécurité publique, identique en deçà, 3 059 215. Les transports, 2 652 110. Hygiène du milieu, 2 820. 68 810 pour la santé et bien-être. Aménagement urbanisme, 922 310. Loisirs et culture, 1 269 797. Et 822 100 pour les frais de financement. Un grand total de 13 51 866. En 2023, on projette des dépenses au niveau de l'administration générale de 2 748 500. Sécurité publique, 3 268 900. Transport, 2 915 400. Hygiène du milieu, 2 156 700. 70 900 en santé et bien-être. 988 100 en aménagement urbanisme et développement. Et 1 541 300 pour les loisirs et 821 100 pour les frais de financement pour un total de 14 510 800. Fait qu'une augmentation d'à peu près 1,5 million à ce niveau-là. Laurent? Ici, vous avez un sommaire là, pour arriver à l'équilibre. Après ça, on va voir les éléments. On a les revenus totaux en 2022 au budget, 14 311 400. 2023, 16 332. Ensuite, vous avez les dépenses de fonctionnement, le total qu'on a vu tantôt, 13 244 40. Et en 23, 14 510 800, plus les remboursements de la dette et affectations. En 22, 1 067 360 et en 23, 1 821 800. Total des dépenses de désaffectation, balance avec le montant total des revenus, 14 311 400, 16 332 600. Vous avez ensuite, vous avez la page des conciliations à des fins fiscales pour équilibrer puis arriver à l'équilibre budgétaire. On a d'abord le financement, donc le remboursement de la dette qu'il faut imputer. On avait au budget de 22 956 000. En 23, 1 318 800. L'augmentation était due à la nouvelle dette de 5 millions en février 2020. Ensuite, vous avez une affectation d'investissement qu'on avait au budget de 500 000. On ne l'a pas utilisé parce qu'on a payé plutôt comptant, ayant les fonds suffisants. Ensuite, il y a l'excédent accumulé affecté pour l'équilibre du budget qu'on avait fait en début d'année. On avait prévu 528 640, on a utilisé seulement. Et en 23, on prévoit utiliser seulement 100 000.
Je pense que c'est important que tu reviennes là-dessus. Okay. Juste intervenir au niveau de la dernière étape, là, les excédents accumulés, c'est-à-dire pour compléter notre budget l'année dernière, on avait, dans le fond, dans le surplus libre, on est allé chercher 528 000. Cette année, on est allé chercher 100 000. L'objectif, c'est toujours arriver à base zéro, c'est-à-dire aller prendre les taxes puis être capable de compléter toute notre année financière. L'année prochaine, l'objectif, ce serait probablement d'être à zéro par rapport au transfert puis se rapprocher le plus près possible des dépenses en vertu des revenus. C'est beau.
Ensuite, on a les réserves financières et les fonds réservés. Au budget 2022, on avait affecté 140 000. Cette année, on affecte 603 000. C'est principalement le fonds de roulement pour lequel on vient chercher des fonds pour le PTI, fonds de roulement, puis le remboursement du fonds de roulement. Fait que vous avez le total des affectations, 1 067 360 pour le budget de 2022 et pour 2023, 1 821 800. Voilà. Ici, vous avez une présentation sous forme de tarte qu'on appelle des répartitions de nos dépenses par fonction. Fait que vous pourrez en prendre connaissance. On peut faire le tour? OK. Fait que vous avez, au niveau des frais de financement, là, c'est uniquement pour ce qui est dans le budget de fonctionnement. Donc, les intérêts représentent 5,66 $. L'administration générale, 18,9 $. Sécurité publique, 22,5 $, ce qui inclut, à part le service des incendies, la Sûreté du Québec et aussi notre service de groupe Sûreté. Ensuite, au niveau des transports, la voirie, déneigement et tout ça, c'est 20 %. L'hygiène du milieu, c'est près de 15, 14,86 %. Santé bien-être, un demi de 1 %. Et l'aménagement, l'urbanisme et le développement, 6,8 %. Et finalement, au loisirs culture, 10,6 %. Ici, on explique les principaux écarts des charges de financement. On vous a mis là, vous pourrez prendre connaissance, je vais passer juste les principaux, où on fait la comparaison budget 2023 versus le budget 2022 avec les écarts, puis vous avez les écarts en pourcentage. Fait qu'au niveau des salaires et avantages sociaux, on avait un budget en 2022 de 4 559 300, passe à 4 838 396, soit une augmentation de 276 096, soit 5,8 %. Les services professionnels augmentent de 8,7 %, passant de 334 600 à 366 500. Les services juridiques augmentent de 150 000, près de 43, un peu plus de 43 %, passe de 193 900 à 344. L'enlèvement de la neige, une augmentation de 106 900, passant de 556 200 à 663 200. C'est principalement ici, on a un 100 000 qu'on a reçu au moment où on préparait le budget, uniquement pour augmentation due au diesel. Ensuite, on a comme principaux, il y a les contrats de matières résiduelles qui augmentent de 84 800, principalement dû sur les nouveaux contrats au niveau du compostage, qui sont inclus dans ça. Enfin, on passe de 299 700 à 384 500. Ensuite, comme gros montant, vous avez la Sûreté du Québec qui augmente de 62 800, passant de 1 765 à 1 828. Enfin, l'intérêt sur la dette, il y a un 63 700, passe de 729 300 à 793 000. C'est 8 %. Fait que le total des dépenses majeures, budget 2022, on avait 10 673 940. En 2023, on a 11 510 296, ce qui est une augmentation de 7,8 %. Les écarts totaux de 836 000. Et vous avez en dessous, la dernière ligne, les dépenses totales qui sont dans le budget de fonctionnement. Fait que c'est une augmentation au niveau des dépenses de 8,7 %. Fait qu'on explique ici une bonne partie des écarts. Là, c'est 836 000 sur 1 267 400. Et cette diapositive, acétate, ça révèle mon âge, mon doux. Cette diapositive, présente diapositive, c'est qu'on vous donne d'abord, on dit en 2022, c'était notre première année de rôle, comme Mme la mairesse l'a mentionné. Ici, on a présenté les valeurs de rôle utilisées pour le budget. L'an passé, on avait une valeur foncière de 1 494 424 480 et l'évaluation imposable utilisée pour le rôle du budget 2023 est de 1 532 669 987, ce qui est une augmentation de 0,025 %, 38 185 500. De ce 38 millions, on a à peu près 33 millions qui est déjà compté. Okay, parce qu'on a reçu, c'était majoritairement les augmentations des constructions qui ont été réalisées à la fin en 2021 et pour lesquelles on a eu les ajustements, les certificats d'évaluateurs et les ajustements de taxes en 2022. Il en reste quelques autres qui vont venir en cours d'année selon ce qui va être émis durant l'année. Et à droite, bien, vous avez la valeur imposable par catégorie. Vous voyez, notre plus grosse catégorie, la plus importante, est définitivement le résidentiel à 95 %. Il y a du non-résidentiel à 3,5 %. Et ensuite, il y a l'agricole, 6 millions. Il y a un 10 millions pour les 6 logements et plus, qui représentent que moins de 1 %. Fait que vous voyez principalement ce qui est la particularité pour Hudson, c'est d'essayer d'aller chercher des revenus, mais c'est quasi strictement l'ensemble des citoyens qui sont taxés. Laurent? La prochaine, on vous présente les principaux taux de taxes comparatifs. On aura dans la présentation sur le site Web le tableau, comme l'an passé, des taux comparatifs complets. Ici, j'ai donné que les principales catégories. Au niveau des résidences, vous voyez les augmentations, hormis la dernière pour le compostage, qui, elle, représente une augmentation de 20 %. Les autres se situent à environ 5 %, sauf la dette à l'ensemble, qui est à 6 %. Mais comme vous le savez, là, le 5 millions vient de nouvelles dettes cette année, vient influencer, mais l'année prochaine pourrait changer compte tenu des refinancements qu'on aura à faire. Fait qu'au niveau du résidentiel, on passe de 0,5890 à 0,61. Les immeubles non résidentiels de 0,6 à 0,63. Terrain vague, 0,75 à 0,7875. L'agricole. La dette à l'ensemble, taux réduit, je le mentionne parce qu'entre autres, on a vu tantôt l'affectation de 100 000. On a affecté un 100 000 pour réduire la dette, parce que la dette en elle-même, si on avait pris le montant qui aurait dû être taxé, l'augmentation aurait été de 30 %. Fait qu'on a réduit cet élément-là en utilisant des économies au niveau des dépenses, plus un 100 000 d'affectation. Au niveau du tarif d'aqueduc résidentiel urbain, le taux de base augmente de 10 $ de 2,30 à 2,40. L'égout résidentiel urbain de base passe de 330 à 360. Les ordures résidentielles restent les mêmes. Le tarif recyclage résidentiel diminue de 5 $ et le tarif de compostage, comme je l'ai mentionné, passe de 100 $ à 120 $. La diapositive suivante, dans le fond, celle-ci et les deux autres qui vont suivre, on vous a sorti, et je vais l'expliquer, un comparatif des taux de la facture de taxes pour une valeur approximative de 450 000. Fait que vous avez, d'abord, pour un résidentiel urbain qui a les services d'aqueduc et d'égout, on passe de 4 118 à 4 300. C'est une augmentation de 4,7 %. Fait que ça, c'est le compte de taxes total. L'aqueduc, ceux qui ont des services juste pour l'aqueduc, 3 645 à 3 839, une augmentation de 5,3 %. Ceux qui n'ont pas de service d'aqueduc et d'égout, de 3 343 à 3 513, une augmentation de 5,1 %. Secteur Pointe-à-Raquette, une augmentation de 5,5 %, soit de 4 170 à 4 398. Et les terrains vacants, finalement, augmentent de 5,1 %, passant de 2 941 à 3 092. Suivante. Ici, la valeur moyenne d'une résidence de 600 000 qui correspond à la moyenne en fonction là, de notre dépôt de rôle. Le dépôt de rôle, effectivement, c'est 602 000, fait qu'on est à 2 000 $ près. Fait que le même exercice a été fait pour donner le plus d'informations possible. Fait que vous avez, pour un résidentiel urbain, avec les services d'aqueduc et d'égout, on passe de 5 120 à 5 364, soit une augmentation de 4,3 %. Ceux qui ont seulement que l'aqueduc, 4 648 à 4 894, soit 5,3 %. Sans aqueduc et égout, une augmentation de 5,1 %, de 4 309 à 4 529. Pour le secteur Whitloff, comme on l'a mentionné, c'est un secteur pour lequel on avait retardé les augmentations, mais qu'on continue tout le temps d'investir et qui coûte plus cher. Fait qu'on passe de 5 790 à 6 300. Pointe-à-Raquette, 5 031 à 5 303, c'est une augmentation de 5,4 %. Fait qu'en moyenne, on passe de 4,8 à 5,4, sauf pour Whitlock, qui est un peu plus élevé. La dernière, ce sont les maisons d'une valeur d'1 million. Même exercice a été fait ici pour donner une idée aux citoyens. Fait que dans le secteur urbain, ceux qui sont desservis par les réseaux d'aqueduc et d'égout, on passe de 8 312 à 8 791, soit 5,8 %. Ceux desservis seulement par l'aqueduc, 7 295 à 7 677, soit 5,2 %. Ceux qui n'ont pas de service d'aqueduc et d'égout, 6 832 à 5 181, soit 5,1 Whitlock, c'est une augmentation de 7,6 passant de 8 480 à 9 128. Pointe-à-la-Quette, 7 007 à 8 115, 5,3 puis Hudson Valley, 5,3 7 295 à 7 678. Ce qui termine la partie présentation, budget, fonctionnement. Pardon? Français? En anglais?
Oui. Non, elle va s'essayer en anglais.
OK. Go.
Allez-y.
Ah, j'aurais dû... Sorry. You should have...
There it is. She told me to do nothing, but obviously I touched it. I'm sorry, I was fidgeting with my microphone. So here we are in English. For budgetary provisions for 2023 in terms of operating revenues for les taxes foncières, so property taxes in general, there's a lot of numbers. So for 2022, in terms of budget, it was $8,887,200. The estimate closing number, to the end of the year, will be $9,012,000. So the budget for 2023 has been put to $9,564,500. In terms of revenues on long-term debts as a whole, the budget for 2022 was $1,206,100. The estimate to close is $1,233,700. The budget for 2023 is $1,312,200. For sectorial taxation, so debts, long-term debts, the budget for 2022, it was $282,900. The estimate to close the year is $287,310, and the budget for 2023 is $305,800. On taxation for services, aqueduct, sewage, and residual matters, the budget for 2022 was $1,810,600. The estimate to close the year is $1,895,873. The budget for 2023 is $2,037,200. Payments instead of taxes, so these are transfer taxes. When a person purchases a home, it's sort of the welcome or la taxe de bienvenue. The budget for 2022 was $160,700. On parle vraiment de ça, non? Hein? Non. Allez-y.
This is the payment from the government.
Ah, merci. Thank you. I could hear our two people in the room. Thank you for correcting me. So this is government pays for schools and other, like daycare maybe? Anyway, there's a couple of types of buildings where the government will reimburse the town for taxes. So for 2022, the budget was $160,700. The estimate to close is $188,280, and the budget is close to our closing number, so $188,200. Transfers, these are transfers that come from a government as well, and what are these for?
Repayment of debt.
For debt?
Their portion of debt.
A portion of debt. So the budget in 2022 was $105,000, sorry. The estimate to close is $277,736, and the budget for this year, for 2023, is $134,300. Pourquoi est-ce qu'elles étaient si hautes?
The actual estimate also include a reimbursement of a 1% TPS that we receive, and another grant that we just received by the end of last week. We received confirmation regarding the matières résiduelles.
So these are
instead of we receive 88,000 instead of 45.
That's
due to our performance.
That's
so
great. Hopefully we'll be even more performant.
We solicitate all the citizens to continue on that.
So opportunities. For rendered services, so I'm guessing these are for permits. In 2022, the budget was $313,700. The estimate to close the year is $407,748. The budget for 2023 is less than 2022 at $293,800. Here is our welcome tax, or taxe de bienvenue. So these are for the transfer taxes when one purchases a home. In 2022, the budget was $1,250,000. The estimate to close is $2,100,000, and the budget in 2023 will be slightly less at $1,900,000, which is still well above 2022. And there's a slight element of risk there, but we feel confident that the sales of homes will continue. And we have also increased, I believe, the transfer amounts for properties that are higher than $1 million, as is permitted in the law.
Over 500,000, sorry.
Over 500,000. In terms of penalties, les amendes, c'est en anglais, les amendes? So for penalties and fines, thank you. The budget in 2022 is $40,200. The estimate to close is $82,490, and the budget for next year is $75,200. So these would be for parking tickets and things like that?
Basically.
Right. Interests the budget for 2022 is $230,000. The estimate to close $530,000, and the budget for 2023 is $516,400. So these are interests on placements, des placements.
It's on our cash and bank.
So we're doing well. Yeah. Other revenues, so in terms of les travaux de voirie. So is this more LATEC? Yeah. So 2022 budget is $25,000. In terms of estimate for 2022 to close is $7,500, and the budget for 2023 is $5,000. Ce montant-là pour les autres revenus de travaux voirie, Pierre?
Yep.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
It's voirie. It's basically represent the invoicing for work done on
so specific works if people have some items that they
connection
need
of aqueduct, something like that, or
right.
correct.
So if someone's hooking up their properties, they might have some corrections to do to the street. So these are their costs. So for a total of revenue, operating revenue budgeted in 2022 is $14,311,400, with an estimate to close at $16,022,337, with a budget for 2023 of $16,332,600. $16,332,600, thank you. Where you will see then the extras, as mentioned, are mostly in the revenue for taxes and in the les matières résiduelles, so in the garbage, the waste, and where else can I see them? Transfer of taxes, thank you. I love having Helen in the audience. All right, for les dépenses, so these are expenses. With regards to general administration, the budget for 2022 was $2,286,165, with an estimate to close at $2,254,704, with a budget for 2023 of $2,748,400. For public security in 2022, the budget was $3,303,100. The estimate to close is $3,059,215, and a budget for 2023 of $3,268,900. In terms of transport, the budget for 2022 is $2,643,550. An estimate to close the year at $2,652,110, with a budget for 2023 of $2,915,400. For hygiene, so this is garbage, waste. For budget of 2022 at $1,900,000 with an estimate to close at $2,820 and a budget of 2023 at $2,156,700. With regards to santé et bien-être, so is this...
This is a cut bar given to the CMM.
Juste santé et bien-être, c'est pour la quote-part? C'est pour l'habitation, ça, non?
Yep.
So this is a transfer that goes to our metropolitan area, the CMM, the Montreal metropolitan area. The budget in 2022 is $68,200. The estimate to close in 2022 is very close at $68,810. And it is expected to be slightly higher in 2023 at $70,900. In terms of urban planning, development, and aménagement, I guess it's
Urbanism.
urban planning. It's more urban planning. The budget in 2022 was $843,300 with an estimate to close at $922,310 and a budget in 2023 of $988,100. In terms of leisure and culture, the budget in 2022 was $1,445,925 with an estimate to close at $1,269,797 and an estimate in 2023 of $1,541,300. In terms of financing fees or charges, the budget in 2022 was $753,800 with a closing at the end of the year of $822,100 and a budget in 2023, which is very close, at $821,100 for a total of expenses budgeted in 2022 of $13,244,040 with an estimate to close 2022 at $13,051,866 and a budget in 2023 for $14,510,800. So as a summary, in terms of total revenues, the budget in 2022 was $14,311,400 with operating expenses without amortissement, immobilization, amortization, thank you, of $13,244,040 and a reimbursement of long-term debt and other affectations of $1,067,360 for a total expense and affectations for 2022 budget of $14,311,400. So when we compare this to 2023, the total revenues will be budgeted at $16,332,600 with operating expenses at $14,510,800, a reimbursement of long-term debt and affectations of $1,821,800, and a total expenses and affectations of $16,332,600. Moving on to conciliation des fins fiscales.
Basically, this is the explanation of what we just saw regarding the reimbursement of long-term debt and affectations.
So these are?
This is to bring the revenue less expenses, less adjustment, to bring to the balanced budget at zero.
Okay. I am so glad this is you telling me how to do this. I understand it mechanically, I just can't explain it very elegantly. So in terms of financing the budget of 2022, the reimbursement of long-term debt was budgeted at $956,000. There was an increase due, is this in 2022 there's an increase, or in 2023 there's an increase?
There was a slight increase in 2022, okay, but still a bigger increase in 23 because it's a full year.
So you're doing part
in
of
2022, we just add interest reimbursement. So in 2023, we had also the capital. This is basically the capital reimbursement, including the $5 million additional in 2022.
In 2022, all right. So as Pierre just explained, it's that $5 million that I'd mentioned with regards to the work for the streets of Main Street in the downtown core and Bellevue. So the budget, as I mentioned, in 2022 was such, and in 2023 will be $1,318,800. In terms of affectations, am I allowed to say that in English? The investments activities for 2022 are budgeted at $500,000, and there are none in 2023. In terms of the use of the unaffected surplus, in terms to balance the budget in 2022, we used we budgeted $528,640. Whereas in 2023, that number is now $100,000. In terms of financial reserves and reserved funds, so this is mostly from our working capital in 2023, but for 2022, the budget had $140,000 in it, whereas in 2023 it is for $603,000. So that is coming mostly from our working capital and will be affected, if I've got this correctly, towards our 3-year capital expenditure plan. So the total, of course, is a balanced amount, but these transfers in order to balance the budget, so for 2022 is $1,067,360. And in 2023, that has increased to $1,821,800. So here you have a visual that gives a proportion per significant expense functions. So you have, for example, general administration represents 18.94% of the budget. Public security is 22.53%. Transport is 20.09%. Hygiène du milieu, so I think that is garbage.
Water, sewage, and des déchets.
Les déchets, so garbage, sewage. Yeah, it represents 14.86%. Health and well-being, so that was that transfer to the CMM, is only 40.49%. Whereas urban planning and development is 6.81%, and culture and leisure is 10.62%, and our financing fees represent 5.66% of the budget. Then this slide explains or basically lays out all of the major splits, so differences in terms of operating expenses. You have here the different columns between the budget of 2023, the budget of 2022, the split in amounts, and what that represents in percentages. So in terms of salaries and social benefits, the budget this year in 2023 is for $4,838,396, which represents a difference of 5.8% with last year's budget. In terms of professional services, this year's budget is $366,500, which represents a difference of 8.7%. In terms of legal fees, this year's budget, or the budget for 2023, is $344,000, where there is a difference with last year's budget of $150,100, which represents a difference of 43.6%. In terms of snow removal, the budget for 2023 is $663,100, where there is a difference of $106,900, which represents 16.1%. And as Pierre had explained earlier, this increase is mostly due to the cost of diesel that has increased. Actually, it is all due to that. In terms of abrasives, so this is sand and salt, the budget for 2023 is $393,000, and it's very close to last year's budget with a difference of 0.7% increase. The contracts for residual matters, so this is garbage, have increased, or the budgets between 2022 and 2023 have increased by $84,800 for a percentage of 22.1%. In terms of transfers, so our due part with the regions, so the MRC, which is the regional county, municipal county of Vaudreuil-Soulanges, the increase this year in budget is $3,675 for a total budget of $670,600, which represents 0.5%. In terms of the transfer to the CMM, the split again between 2022 and 2023 is $8,400, which represents 4.2% for a total budget of $201,700. The transfer to the ARTM, so that is the Metropolitan Transport, public transport body. Our budget in 2023 is for $318,500. That represents $9,700 more than budgeted last year at 3% increase. For Sûreté du Québec, so that is our SQ, the budget for 2023 is $1,828,000. This represents an increase of $62,800 for, which represents 3.4% increase. Groupe Sûreté, that is our local community patrol. The budget for 2023 is $135,100. This is an increase of $5,100, which represents 3.8% with regards to the budget in 2022. Our Support Informatique, this is all of our computers and software help and servicing. So the budget in 2023 is $193,500. This represents an increase against last year's budget of $1,600, so an increase of 0.8%. In terms of communications, there will be a decrease anticipated of $1,115 for a decrease of 2.1%. So the budget in 2023 for that line item is $53,600. For electricity, the budget in 2023 is $288,400. This represents an increase of $14,600 for 5.1%. In terms of heating oil, the budget in 2023 is $38,400. This is an increase of $12,500, which represents 32.6% increase with regards to last year's budget. And our interests on long-term loans have increased, or are budgeted to increase at $63,700. That represents 8%. So they are, the budget of 2023 is $793,000. The total for these major expenses in the budget of 2023 is $11,510,296. That represents an increase of $836,356. So that is 7.8% increase. Against total expenses for the budget of 2023 of $14,510,800. That represents an 8.7% increase against the budget of 2022. So that's an increase of $1,267,400. The next slide runs through the evaluation role. So this is property assessment, as I'd mentioned in my opening statement, where in 2022, this was the first year of that 3-year rule that began in January of 2022. The values that were used for the budget, so were the imposable evaluations or amounts. So for budget of 2022, it was $1,494,424,480, whereas for the 2023 rule used in the budget, it was $1,532,609,987. I know here it's written an increase of 0.025%, but I believe that's a lot higher. It's closer, I believe. La virgule est dans la mauvaise place, je pense. No? So the increase is $38,185,507. So that is that explanation with regards to the value of the properties in Hudson continue to increase, which is a good thing, but it also means that it has an impact on our taxation. With regards to the imposable values per category, so meaning between residential, so single-family homes, multi-residential, vacant lots, non-residential lots, forestier basically means wooded lots, and agricultural lots, you here have then the breakdown of how that 1.5 billion is split, where 95.1% of our imposable value is actually residential, single family, 0.7% is for 6 units and up, 0.26% is for vacant lots, and 3.54% is for non-residential. That's typically our commercial sector, represents only 3.54%, which is quite different than the average in the province, which is closer to 15%. In terms of wooded areas, that is 0.01%, and agricultural areas in terms of value represent 0.39% of the total imposable value. On the next slide, here you have the comparison of taxation rates between 2022 and 2023. Where for the categories of residential, last year the taxation rate, or mill rate, I should say it, was 0.5890, and in 2023 we are increasing it to 0.6185 for a 5% increase on average. For non-residential buildings, so these are the commercial buildings, the rate in 2022 is 0.60. We are increasing it to 0.63, so it remains very close to the residential rate, and we're proposing an increase then of 5%, just as we did for the residential area. For non-built, unbuilt, or vacant lots that are serviced, so serviced by aqueduct and les égouts, sewage, the rate for those properties are higher, as those are intended to be built. That would be the best outcome. So for 2022, the rate was 0.75, and that was increased to 0.7875 with a 5% increase. Agricultural areas or lots were at 0.589, and those have increased to 0.6185. So that's also a 5% increase. The debt on the whole, the rate was reduced. No. C'est quoi le taux réduit?
That's what I explained. The rate should have been 0.1103. So we reduce it after reducing our expense and using the 100,000 as an affectation. So we reduced from 1103 to 0.0856. Okay. That's
to bring it to 6.1, so to bring it within reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just to make sure, because it will be stated on the tax account reducted rate. So if we have to go back to the normal, so nobody will be surprised.
Got it. I wonder if anyway, it doesn't matter. This is good. Thank you. In terms of the rate for aqueduct in the urban sector, so the base rate in 2022 was $230. This has increased by $10 in 2023 for an increase of 0.43%. In terms of the taxation for the sanitary service in the urban area, this has increased by $30 between 2022 and 2023, so that represents an increase of 9.1%. The taxation rate, or not rate, but charge for les ordures, les déchets, garbage in the residential area has remained the same between 2022 and 2023, so there's no increase. And the tariff for recycling in the residential area has actually decreased by $5 between $95 in 2022 to $90 in 2023. That is a decrease of 5.3%. And in terms of residential composting, as our charge from that service provider that comes through the regional county 2023. There was an increase this year. You saw that earlier. So unfortunately, that tariff will increase by $20, and it moves from $100 in 2022 to $120 in 2023, which represents a 20% increase. In terms of a few scenarios to understand the impact on the different values of homes in town, we've done 3 scenarios. So this is for a $450,000 home, a $600,000 home, and the last one will be for a $1 million home. Just to let it be known that the average value of a home is $550,500. No?
602. This is 602? The average as per the rule.
602.
602.
So we're increasingly very expensive. Pardon?
Vous faites un très bon travail. On vous en tiendra pas rigueur.
C'est gentil, merci. Vous aussi d'ailleurs. Merci. So the scenario for a $450,000 home, where in the residential area, so we are projecting an increase of 5% between 2022 and 2023, where in the residential area in 2022, in the urban sector, if you had aqueduct and sanitary services, the tax invoice would have been $4,118, whereas for the same home in 2023, the tax bill would be $4,310 for an increase or a variation of 4.7%. If the home in the urban sector only has aqueduct, the charge would have been $3,645, and that would move to $3,839 for an increase of 5.3%. A home in the urban area without aqueduct and without sanitary would be $3,343, whereas in 2023 it would increase to $3,513 for an increase of 5.1%. In the area of Pointe-à-Raquette, which is the area where you live or beyond you? West of you?
Yeah, Rigaud border.
So Rigaud border. They are using water from the Rigaud area. The tax invoice in 2022 would have been $4,170. This will increase to $4,398 for an increase of 5.5%. For a vacant lot, the tax bill in 2022 would be $2,941, whereas in 2023 it is expected to increase by 5.1% to an amount of $3,092. So again, that was for property values of $450,000. So we've done the same exercise for property values of $600,000. I could read these out. Or we could make these available. We will be making these available. Veux-tu que je les lise tous? Quelle est l'utilité? Is it important for me to read them? I'm using.
If
about them later, I'm sure you do. I almost expect what your answer will be.
The principle is the same for all 3.
Right. So these amounts will be made available online. We will be making them available in both languages, Pierre. I just want to signal that in the case of Whitlock West, as mentioned in my opening statement, due to improvements that were made to their sewage treatment plant, that increase will be reflected in their tax bills. And the increase is much higher than what it is for the rest of town. So where, for example, in the case of a $600,000 property, the average is around 5% increase. Unfortunately for Whitlock West, that will be closer to 8.8, let's say between 7.6 and 8.8%. So anyway.
Yes, just to specify, remember last year when you arrived at the council, we were supposed to increase, and I presented the numbers, and we kept the same rate as the year before, 1,136 for Whitlock. So we were at lost for the last 2 years. So this year, the coming year, we're
We've come
bringing
back to the actual.
to the normal.
Right. So
Ton micro.
it's very easy. It's nice. Thank you. So as Pierre was mentioning, last year when we came in, we made the choice of doing a gradual transition in terms of bringing that service to its actual cost on the town. And this year is the year where it is back to user pair.
To normal, yeah.
To normal.
It's $264 more for Whitlock.
All right. So that would be that. I believe that covers the part for the budget. Then we will move to the 3-year expenditure plan, and after the adoption, there is the question period, Steve. But I already anticipate what your question is because it came up while I was reading the numbers. Thank you. Merci, Pierre.
Thank you, Mrs.
Tu veux que je l'adopte? Vous voulez qu'on l'adopte, le budget, puis après ça, on passe?
Both.
On fait les présentations ensemble? D'accord.
OK. Pour le PTI, la présentation du PTI, on est allé de façon sommaire. Vous avez d'abord, dans cette première diapositive, la présentation par principale nature. Fait que vous avez le budget projeté pour 2023, 2024 et 2025. Je vais y aller ligne par ligne. Je peux faire les deux si vous voulez, Madame la mairesse. Là. C'est pas compliqué.
S'il vous plaît.
So, des infrastructures, voirie, parcs et espaces verts, on prévoit 2 715 000 en 23, 4 millions 2 en 24 et 4 25 000 en 25. 2 millions. So, the infrastructure for road, parks, and green space, so it's 2 715,000, 4 200,000, and $2 025,000. The next, it's renovation and construction, rénovation et construction de bâtiments, buildings and renovation and construction. En 2023, on débute surtout avec, il y a beaucoup d'analyses et d'études professionnelles, 370 000. En 2024, 1 750 000 et en 2025, 1 850 000. So it's 370,000, 1 750,000, and 1 850,000 in 2025. The next one, infrastructure d'eau, water infrastructure, 2023, 2 730,000, 24, 4 310 million, 4 310,000, and 4 905,000 in 25. Programme de remplacement du matériel roulant for the rolling stock replacement program in 2023, 520,000, 24, 400,000, and 80,000 in 25. So 520 000, 400 000 et 80 000. Le majeur se fait dans les 2 prochaines années. Other projects and equipment, les autres projets et autres équipements, entre autres beaucoup d'informatique et d'autres petits projets. 270 000 en 23, 425 000 en 24 et 275 000 en 25. 270, 425,000 and 275,000. The total for each year, 6,605,000 in 2023, 11,085,000 in 24, and 9,135,000 in 25. The next one, this is how we intend to finance all that. So, cash from General Administrative Fund, comptant à partir du Fonds d'administration générale, 90 000 en 2023. Au niveau du Fonds de roulement, Working Capital Fund, 450 000 en 23, 100 000 en 24 et 130 000 en 25. Working Capital Fund, 450,000, 100,000, and 130 for each year, 2023 to 2025. Les fonds réservés, fonds de parc et espaces verts, reserve for park and green space, in 2023, 50,000 and 250,000 in 24, 50 000 en 23 et 250 000 en 24. l'utilisation de surplus non affecté, non-allocated surplus. En 2023, 690 000, 450 000 en 24 et 500 000 en 25. So for 2023, $690,000. In 24, $450,000, and 25, $500,000. Using an excess of closed bylaw, which was programmed 2 years ago for Lakeview, basically, it's l'excédent de règlement d'emprunt fermé pour Lakeview. On avait prévu 460, mais ça sera probablement revisé avec les mises à jour qu'on aura en temps opportun. Ensuite, au niveau des subventions tech, l'utilisation des remboursements de taxes d'assises qui sont prévus, là, fait qu'un tech grant, on prévoit 2 520 000 en 23, 1 420 000 en 24 et 600 000 en 25. So it is 2 520,000 in 2023. In 2024, 1 420,000 and $600,000 in 2025. 2024 and 2025 is still subject to approval by the government when we will adopt the new programmation. The subvention PRASIM grant, which is basically representing grant that we still have to work on for the construction of a garage and other buildings. So it's $150,000 in 2023. 2024, it's $1,750,000 and $1,800,000 in 2025. So, donc, la subvention PRASIM, on commence en 2023 avec principalement les honoraires professionnels, 150 000 pour certains projets de construction. Ensuite, on débutera les travaux en 2024 pour 1 750 000 qui se poursuivront en 2025 pour 1,8 million et peut-être l'année ultérieure. Il y aura des emprunts de secteur financing en 2023 pour 328 000 $1 090 000 en 24 et 4 055 000 en 25. So sector financing in 2023, $325,000, $1,090,000 in 2024, and $4,055,000 in 2025. Still have other finance to be provided from reserve funds, bylaw, and surplus. So, autre financement, it's $1,870,000 in 2023, $6,525,000 in 24, and $2,050,000 in 2025. Cette dernière ligne, quand on regarde 2024 et 2025, il y a des gros montants, mais tout ça sera réexaminé quand on aura des chiffres plus précis à partir des honoraires professionnels qui vont être encourus en 2023 et qui vont nous donner à ce moment-là un budget plus détaillé des coûts et aussi qu'on aura pu fixer les subventions, finir d'attacher les subventions avec les différents niveaux de gouvernement. Je ne sais pas si tu veux traduire, s'il te plaît. Non? OK. The 2024 and 2025, okay, still seem quite high, but it will be reviewed in due time after we'll get the information from the engineering firms on the detailed costs, projected costs, and after they had concluded their work because they will be mandated to meet the government at a different government level to finalize the grants from them. So the total financing for each year, 2023, $6,605,000. 24, $11,585,000, and 25, $9,135,000. This balance with the previous slide, so you still have the same total on both. So that's it for the presentation of Capital Expenditure Program. C'est la présentation du programme triennal d'immobilisation de la ville d'Hudson pour 23, 24 et 25. Merci.
Merci, Pierre.
Merci beaucoup, Pierre. La mairesse, je pense. Madame la mairesse.
Donc, item number 3, that was the presentation. We are moving now to item number 4, the adoption of the 2023 budget. Whereas the council must, between November 15th and December 31st, prepare and adopt the budget of the municipality for the next fiscal year and provide therein for revenues of at least equal to the expenditures. Whereas public notice for the adoption of the 2023 budget forecast has appeared on the outdoor bulletin board as well as on the town's website. This resolution will be that the budget of the town of Hudson for 2023 fiscal year ending December 31st of 2023 be adopted in the following amounts. For revenues of $16,332,600, for expenses of $14,510,800, with those fiscal adjustments mentioned in the presentation of $1,821,800, for a total expenditures of $16,332,600.
Point 4, adoption du budget 2023.
On t'entend pas. Oui, c'est mieux.
Point 4, adoption du budget 2023. Donc, considérant que le Conseil doit, entre le 15 novembre et le 31 décembre, préparer et adopter le budget de la municipalité pour le prochain exercice financier en y prévoyant des revenus au moins égaux aux dépenses. Considérant l'avis public de l'adoption des prévisions budgétaires pour 2023 qui a paru le 8 décembre dernier, c'est la résolution d'adoption du budget de la Ville pour les montants suivants, donc des revenus au montant de 16 332 600, des charges au montant de 14 510 800, des ajustements fiscaux pour 1 821 800, ce qui mène un total des charges équivalent aux revenus, donc de 16 332 600.
Merci. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the budget? So Darren Legault proposes, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. And there are none. The resolution is passed unanimously. Item number 5, adoption of the 2023, 2024, 2025 program of capital expenditures. Whereas the council shall, no later than December 31st of each year, adopt by resolution the program of the capital expenditures of the municipality for the next 3 fiscal years. This resolution is that the program of capital expenditures of the town of Hudson for the fiscal years of 2023, 2024, and 2025 be adopted as tabled.
Point 5, adoption du programme triennal d'immobilisation 2023, 2024, 2025. Donc, considérant que le Conseil doit, encore une fois, au plus tard le 31 décembre de l'année, adopter par résolution le programme des immobilisations pour les 3 années financières subséquentes. La résolution vise à adopter le programme triennal d'immobilisation tel que présenté.
Merci. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the PTI? Peter Mate, moving, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to the plan triennal, to the 3-year capital expenditure plan? There are none. It is adopted unanimously. Question period, Mr. Farrell. I remind you that the question period must deal exclusively with the items on this agenda. No, he's allowed more than one. He's waited all year for this.
Does this go higher? Steve Farrell, 86 Butternut. Good evening. Thank you for your presentation. Well presented. Pierre, very nice. Quick question on the revenues. Do you know how much is coming from new homes versus the existing homes? So that when we look at the increase of 6 or 7%, depending on if we're comparing it against the last year's budget or last year's estimate or actual, how much of it is coming from new homes versus the existing homes, giving us an indication of what our increase might be?
Faut vous rapprocher du micro, Monsieur Hood.
Oui, mais je ne pense pas que j'étais branché. Là, est-ce que je le suis?
Presque.
je vais
Pour vous
m'approcher.
rapprocher un petit peu, rapprocher le micro.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Ah, c'est beau, c'est parfait, merci. Ce qu'on disait, c'est que, là, c'est presque fort, je m'étourdis moi-même, c'est qu'on avait 38 millions de plus cette année.
En valeur.
Hein?
En valeur.
En valeur. Ce qu'on a, fait que c'est à peu près 2,5 38 millions là, à 60 sous du 100 $, à peu près 20 quelques mille de plus au niveau des revenus nets, là. Pas plus que ça.
Okay, we'll get to that later for the existing homes. Thank you. Interest revenue now.
Yeah.
The 22 estimate is 130% above the 22 budget, which is understandable because of the increase in the interest rates, right? I agree with that. That's fine. So it was a bonanza of revenue on the interest side. When you're budgeting the 23 amounts for interest, how come you've budgeted at 516 instead of 530? Are you anticipating that the rates are going to go down and that there's not going to be a recession?
As I mentioned while I was explaining, we expect a little reduction because we used some cash this year. So we used to have, we went almost to $20 million in cash. So we are at 16 now.
In our capital expenditures.
On va avoir moins d'intérêt parce qu'on a moins d'argent en banque.
Yeah.
Okay, so what rate are you estimating for the interest rate going
What?
forward? What rate of interest are you estimating?
Well, the rate, the market change every quite often. So I just went with the
On peut revenir.
Well,
what we have.
An easier question is, have you set the rate solid or hard rate for the whole 12 months, or is it declining?
No. It's not set specifically with a fixed rate.
So have you estimated a decline or an increase?
Au niveau de l'intérêt?
Yeah, the interest rate, le taux d'intérêt.
Oui.
I didn't use an
Est-ce que c'est
interest rate.
prévu pour augmenter ou diminuer pendant l'année 23?
My understanding is that he used a number. He went with what was there, and he
More use a number, but also figure out that the interest rate were including but stabilizing.
Mais on s'est basé,
OK.
essentiellement, on s'est basé sur les revenus 2022.
De 22,
là, on en
de
met
23,
l'argent, là.
de
Ça
22,
varie
ouais.
un peu,
OK.
on le verra, mais on ne pense pas que ça va varier autant que ça l'a varié dans le
Dans la dernière année.
dans la
Okay.
dernière année.
Do you know what the average rate of increase for the salaries are for 23?
On l'a
Just
pas-
in, just in percentages.
On n'a pas d'augmentation présentement pour 2023. Les conventions collectives sont terminées les deux, une en octobre et une se termine à fin décembre. Fait que ça va être à négocier pendant
but our
2 ans.
present collective agreement is
But in-
2.25.
But in the budget, what percentage
Well,
increase have
we
you put?
need to reserve some discretion because we are entering collective
okay.
agreement in
Parce
January.
qu'on va négocier.
Understood.
Fait que-
Understood. Now, you mentioned, Madam Mayor, many reallocations between budget categories at the beginning of your speech. The budget numbers that we're looking at right now, are these the original budget numbers, or are these the ones that have been massaged?
I think they're amended. Huh?
So they're
C'est
massaged.
d'origine? C'est budget.
So they're massaged with many reallocations. Okay.
Throughout our exercise, we saw both. We could
Okay,
see both.
fine. Now, the question you're waiting for,
Yes.
Madam Mayoress, is your examples of the tax on the $450, $600, and $1 million homes.
You want to know if that's the old role or the new role, or how do we?
Yes, because if not, then it's a misrepresentation
Alors,
of the
Pierre, vous vous
taxes.
souvenez, c'est la même question que l'an dernier.
Again,
Basically, sir, we used the tax program we have with the value close to what it was requested, 450, 600, and $1 million. So we used the tax journal result from the system, okay, and that what was presented to you. So using last year with last year value and this year with this year value. So if the roll was given last year, there are basically no change in the rolls from one year to the other unless you have
so,
Improvement.
addition or renovation
well,
made during
but
the year.
everyone's evaluation goes up. So what I am asking is if your home was evaluated at $450 for 22, in 23, it's not going to be $450.
It'll
Could it be higher?
close. It'll be close. They only adjust it every 3 years unless you've done improvements to your house.
Non, les seules personnes qui vont... Excusez-moi.
It's okay, go ahead.
Les seules personnes qui vont avoir des modifications, c'est les gens qui ont rénové pendant l'année, puis que l'évaluateur a passé dans l'année, puis leur a donné une nouvelle évaluation. Les autres, le montant devrait se maintenir la même chose. Fait qu'on n'ira pas. Sinon, il aurait fallu baisser le taux. On n'a pas baissé le taux.
Which is what we did last year, remember, because we were
Ça, c'est
changing rules.
dans le fond, en début de rôle, c'est là souvent qu'il y a des incongruités par rapport aux augmentations parce qu'il y a des gens, si le rôle augmente de 30, la plupart vont augmenter de 30, mais on voit des gens qui vont augmenter de 15, puis il va y avoir des gens qui vont augmenter de 45. Mais nous, on ne peut pas suivre ni un ni l'autre. On y va sur la moyenne, puis c'est là qu'on trouve...
Understood.
Okay.
Okay. Why are you budgeting an increase of 43% or $150,000 on legal fees?
On legal fees?
Yeah.
So with regards to the RCI that we've put in place, it is incurring a certain amount of pushback from some developers, and we're also, while we're preparing the new bylaws, we're doing a lot more verification validation with the different legal teams.
Any new lawsuits that we're looking forward to in 23?
New, I mean, we received letters. Whether that will turn into a lawsuit at this point is unknown. Do we have one?
On a reçu un autre, là, dernièrement.
We have one that is on hold
Ouais.
now because it's been called to appeal, right, by another instance. Est-ce que tu peux l'expliquer mieux que moi, peut-être, Mélissa?
On a un dossier actuel qui est suspendu parce que dans la partie a également un
autre
dossier.
litige.
Donc, c'est suspendu pendant cette période-là, mais ce dossier-là n'est pas un nouveau litige. Il a commencé en 2021.
Good. Thank you.
You're
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions online?
Yes, we have Jim Duff.
Okay. Helen, we'll pass Jim Duff online first, and then you. Is that all right? All right.
Yeah, good night. Good evening, everybody.
Oh my goodness, I can hear you, Jim. You're almost in the room. You're just
That's
standing at
good.
at a loudspeaker.
You made up for last month. That's great. Thank you. Anyway, good work. Steve hit all the high points, so I'm just left with scraps. But I am curious about how do you rationalize the rate for welcome tax, the income from welcome tax in 2023? I mean, this year we busted the bank. We did very well. But next year, $1.9 million, theoretically, we could go higher or lower if the market, we have reason to believe the market's going to be better or worse or what have you. So how do you reach that number?
As I'd explained, it's a balance between two elements. So it was this year that we've actually increased the transfer tax, and I know I shouldn't call it that, but for properties that are $500,000 and up, as we're allowed to by new permission in the law. So that's an amount that is different from the numbers you may remember when you were on council. And also, as our property values continue to be higher, we do expect that there will continue to be sales, probably not in the same volume as this year, but there will still be sales, and usually those are sales of the higher properties. So it is a little bit of a gambling act, but as you know, we still have a decent amount of cushion in terms of unallocated surplus. But in the past, as you know, that has been a source in the budget of great an excédent, so surplus. Right, it was one that we could always count on, so we're trying to bring it closer to reality rather than it being a convenient cushion. Is that a good explanation? I think Martin may want to add something to this.
Yeah. Juste, Madame la mairesse, pour expliquer que cette année, on prévoit 2,1 millions, mais si la réglementation avait été appliquée pendant toute l'année, on serait près de 2,6 millions. Fait qu'on est quand même 25% conservateur par rapport à l'ajout, dans le fond, de la réglementation. Fait qu'on est 20-25. Fait qu'on s'imagine qu'on s'approche de la réalité, mais on a quand même 500 000 de moins qu'on aurait produit cette année.
So if I were to translate that, with that change to the bylaw, to that charging ability. Had we applied it all year this year, that would have brought us to 2.6 million, so an increase of $500,000. And so that is an increase of 25%, which is also what is helping us be pretty bold and confident with the number that we've put in the budget.
Right. We'd a lot of houses are now going to come into the $2 million or over the $2 million threshold, and just by dint of evaluation. So that means that we're going to be raising that. There's a different threshold for over $2 million homes, a percentage of that increase over $2 million. So are we thinking of backing off? Some municipalities are talking about backing off that and making it a little fairer for people that are just caught on the wrong end of a windfall.
So in evaluating this question, it was found that Hudson had actually been lower than our neighboring municipalities, and this is why we've brought it up to the same level as our neighbors. I haven't heard of other neighbors bringing them down. Have you? No.
Puis c'est en haut de 500,000.
So it's for homes of 500,000 and up. Are there 2 categories or 3 categories? 1 category. So it's only for homes above 500,000, which represents more than our average value of home. So it's more than 50%. I couldn't even say
That's
that.
right.
But.
We're getting people. We're getting people both ways. Listen, I won't belabor that. Heating and oil and electricity. Those were big concerns when we were in council, and I see it's getting worse. We got all these little buildings we're heating, and a lot of installations. Would it be? When do you decide whether it's better to try to increase to improve
Consolidate?
your building stock, your town?
Well, that's what that external consultant hopefully will help us, because as you know, even to convert oil to electricity, there is a certain amount of investment that goes into that. We don't want to be investing in buildings that we may not keep. So in having that financial portrait with the long-term capability of the town, it will help us determine at what point, what is the best, when do we make that choice? As much as we would like to do that in 2 years, maybe in terms of our long-term debt and the trajectory that we're on and where the interest rates are, it might be wiser to extend that longer. We have asked our Director of Public Works to look into converting at least 2 of our buildings to electricity. So hopefully we'll look at that and see at what point does that become beneficial, in the same way that we'd looked at the public lighting. You remember when all the street lights were changed to LED? There was that evaluation of, within 2 years we would be back within our money. So there's certain elements like that that will be reviewed throughout the year, but for us, certainly moving away from oil is important.
Okay, last question. You would know this because you're at the MRC. What about the SQ? What's the latest twist and turn in this saga? $1.8 million this year. How much of a ristourne do we get, and how much is held back by certain other municipalities?
So at this point, the redistribution of that amount has continued since 2021. It is still being contested in the courts. The MRC continues to be confident that we will not be rolling that back, but meanwhile, it is what it is. I believe that will be heard in the courts in March. There were some revisions done to the case of those who are pursuing the MRC, so a slight sort of closing of certain loopholes, so improving of their presentation or their cause. On our end, in terms of La Ristourne, I have a $300,000 in mind, but 375, 400,000. So per year, the redistribution of the overcharge represents 400,000 for Hudson. So certainly, it's something that is advantageous, and I still feel that it is. It is here to stay.
Great. Listen, thanks a lot. Have a good evening.
You're welcome. Thank you. Helen?
Helen Kurganski, thank you. Most of the questions have already been asked. I have some questions about the capital expenditure program. I saw you've planned for the years 23, 24, 25, if I added it all up, close to $12 million to be spent on water infrastructure. Could you please explain that?
Water?
Yes.
Sur l'eau?
It says here $2,730,000 on the wish list for 2023, $4,310,000 for 2024,
improving-
and then another
Is the
$4,905,000 in
treatment, water
2025.
The water treatment facility, I believe that the automation needs to be upgraded, and that has a huge cost in terms of the computer system that goes into it. Anyone else?
$12 million?
Pine Lake is not in the water. Is it in the water? You put it in the
The
water?
water section, yeah.
Okay. That explains it.
It's 1.8.
1.8, so it is all Pine Lake.
And most other are the other one are basically the things that are subject to the tech refund.
So those are improvements that are done during the year that fall
For example,
under.
we have the mise à niveau, okay, to upgrade the automates on the plants, the water and sewer plant, 400,000. We had 300 for the Hudson Valley drainage planning, the extension Birch Hill égout pluvial, 750,000. Égout pluvial, Selkirk and Maple, and so the drainage, it's 800,000. So there's a big investment to be there to try to regularize certain problems we have with drainage.
Recurrent problems that we have that you're familiar with as well.
Okay, for water. And then for buildings renovation and construction over the next 3 years, close to $4 million. What were you having in your minds when you...
I believe it's the garage. Veux-tu faire la liste?
Le garage et l'hôtel de ville.
So
Basically,
depending-
that's it. It's $2
Our
million.
existing town hall needs significant shoring at the back in terms of its foundation and repointing of the bricks, probably replacing of the bricks and the windows. But most of this would fall under subsidies that are available for municipal buildings.
Okay, and then another close to $9 million over the next 3 years for roads, parks, and green spaces. What did you have in mind in this expenditures? What did you,
Parks?
what items were on the agenda for that, please?
Pierre?
Basically, we have roughly $2 million for repaving on different streets, and we have a special for Lakeview, $1.8 million in 2024. Where it increased the most. But as I said, the budget for 2024 and 2025, this is a kind of pre-budget, so to announce that we are working, we start in 2024 some engineering fees for certain projects that we intend to do in future, but we still have to attach financing on those. So the amount may vary when we get the answer.
Puis comme le disait la mairesse aussi, on va avoir en janvier une étude. On va travailler avec un spécialiste pour... On a plusieurs dépenses à venir. Vous l'avez vu, l'hôtel de ville, Lakeview, le garage. Puis on va évaluer avec lui puis avec nos données qu'est-ce qu'on est capable de se payer, puis sur combien de temps il faut l'échelonner. Là, vous le voyez qu'il y a beaucoup de projets sur 3 ans, mais dans le fond, on a réuni ce qu'on voudrait faire, mais probablement que dans le temps, ça va s'allonger selon ce qu'on va être capable de payer, selon ce que les citoyens vont être capables aussi, dans le fond, d'avoir la rémunération pour le faire, les sous pour le faire. Mais ça pourrait bien s'étirer sur plusieurs années. Puis de là, établir des priorités dans les prochaines années avec le Conseil et les citoyens. Quelles seront vos priorités? Puis avec les sous qu'on aura, bien, c'est comme ça qu'on va se bâtir, dans le fond, un PTI, mais sur plusieurs années. Ça ne se pense pas effectivement que dans les 3 prochaines années, tout va se réaliser. On va devoir faire des choix. Mais on va avoir quelqu'un pour nous accompagner, pour, dans le fond, nous aider à prédire ce qu'on va avoir comme sous.
So I will translate for those who may not understand your beautiful French. As Ms. Kurganski has been asking, it's a lot of money, and essentially over this, within this PTI, we have regrouped all of the necessary work with roads and buildings and other infrastructure. And at the beginning of 2023, we have asked to have an external consultant to come and help us plan whether we can do it over 3 years or 5 or 10, but essentially to work this out and so that it can be spread over the capacity of the town with all of our present obligations and capacity to pay. So that will be coming up. So
what kind of consultant is able to help you do that kind of thing?
So one of the consultants that has been proposed to us, but we still have to sit down and see whether that mandate falls. But the strongest specialists for this are at RCGT, who Raymond Chabot, Grant Thornton, did I get them right? They are accountants and they work with a lot of municipalities, so they actually have a lot of the data to help us get a clear picture, do some of the benchmarking that we've been talking about. But we need to really frame that mandate to make sure that we're not just getting another sort of copy-paste. That is our biggest fear, so to make sure that it is really tailored. That's why I had said it in my opening, to have a committee to follow that and to really customize it to our very specific needs.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for the...
Je termine aussi ce qui pourrait influencer, excusez-moi, Madame la mairesse, mais c'est aussi les subventions. Parce que dans le cas de l'hôtel de ville, on pourrait avoir une subvention. Dans le cas des 58 à 50, ça peut aller jusqu'à 58 dans le cas des travaux publics, jusqu'à à peu près jusqu'à 58 Fait qu'on sait que lorsqu'on débute, une fois qu'on a nos ingénieurs, nos plans profils, puis qu'on dépose, avant qu'on s'assoie de notre tour, ça peut prendre quelques années. Puis c'est sûr qu'on va bénéficier on va attendre de bénéficier de ces sous-là qui viennent des gouvernements en général. Fait que c'est ce qui pourrait aussi allonger, c'est le fait d'avoir des subventions, mais je pense que c'est très intéressant aussi, compte tenu de notre grandeur de ville, on a le droit jusqu'à ces pourcentages-là.
Thank you very much for mentioning that, because I was going to say all of this shouldn't lie only on our taxpayers' shoulders. No. You know, there are creative ways of funding our beautiful projects and improving our town.
So I will just translate that last little bit of Martin's, which is essentially that there are a lot of subsidies that are available for roads and municipal buildings that can go up to 58%, so that will have an impact as well on our capacity to get our projects done. Yeah. Did anyone want to add anything?
Laura, peut-être, je ne sais pas si elle a des questions.
Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions?
Nobody else.
How many people are online, Laura?
14.
Oh.
14. Look at us.
On a quelqu'un avec nous.
Yes, you're back.
One question. Did I hear correctly that Pine Lake has been approved and that's a $1.8 million
It's not been approved. It will be going out, or if it has not this month, for new plans and specifications to basically make that footprint smaller. And from there, we will then reevaluate the cost of that project. Right now, we've just used the sort of same ballpark number.
It's been estimated at $1.8 million right now.
We've just we've plugged that in. Because
But I thought that there was a significant push to bring it down closer to
there
$1
is,
million.
But we still need to be prudent with our planning and our budgeting, so we do not know the actual cost.
So you're always budgeting higher than anticipated, is that it? Does that include the regular annual budget?
Well, this is, I think part of that budget will go through a loan bylaw, and some of it will come through the surplus as it had been budgeted before. What the actual numbers are, we will find out in the next few months.
Thanks again.
You're welcome.
Madame la mairesse, si vous me permettez, l'estimé qu'on avait, c'était la seule avec le long barrage. C'est pour ça que c'est pas... Ça a pas été, c'est le montant qu'on avait, puis on pouvait pas ajouter rien. Mais comme je vous dis, notre directeur des travaux publics travaille présentement sur l'appel d'offres avec un modèle beaucoup plus petit.
Il est en cours.
Il est en cours. On est en cours, là. On reçoit. Fait que bientôt, on va pouvoir mettre des nouveaux chiffres.
And very well. So thank you. All right. Are we ready to adjourn this meeting? I will need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate, that the meeting be adjourned at 9:19 p.m. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. This meeting is closed. We are opening a second special meeting on December 19th of 2022. The meeting is opened at 9:20 p.m. The adoption of the agenda at item 2. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault moving, seconded by Reed Thompson, that the agenda of the special council meeting of December 19th be and is hereby adopted as presented. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. The agenda is adopted. Item number 3.
Mais mon micro ne fonctionnait pas.
OK, Darren.
Le point 2, donc, le Conseil vient d'adopter l'ordre du jour de la deuxième séance extraordinaire de ce soir, qui est adopté tel que présenté.
Merci. On passe au point 3. Moving to item 3, notice of motion and tabling of draft bylaw number 759-2023, decreeing the taxation for the 2023 fiscal year. So the councillor of District 4, Reed Thompson, gives notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council the adoption of bylaw 759-2023, decreeing the taxation for the 2023 fiscal year, and tables a copy of the draft bylaw. The object of this bylaw is to establish the rate of taxation for the 2023 fiscal year.
Point 3,
Oui,
avis de motion et dépôt du projet pour le règlement 759-2023 décrétant l'imposition des taxes pour l'exercice financier 2023. Donc, le conseiller Reed Thompson a donné avis de motion de son intention de soumettre pour adoption à une prochaine séance le règlement en question et en dépose le projet. Donc, ce règlement a pour but d'établir les taux de taxes pour l'imposition de l'exercice financier 2023.
Merci. Item number 4, filming permit authorization, Productions Venery Muse, Inc. Whereas a request for filming permit was received by the town by Venery Productions, or Muse, Inc., for the filming of a television series, and whereas the production requires different hours than those provided for in the filming regulations, whereas the production requires street closures, and considering that the shooting takes place in January and that the streets that will be closed are generally less busy during this period, and considering the possible benefits for merchants, this resolution is to authorize the filming from January 24th to 26th of 2023, and the street closures according to the schedule proposed by Productions Venery Productions, or Muse, Inc., and under the conditions set out by the town to cause as little disruptions as possible. En français?
L'item 4, autorisation pour un tournage de film, production Venery Muse, Inc. Donc, considérant qu'une demande de permis de tournage a été reçue par la Ville, par cette maison de production, considérant que la production nécessite des heures différentes que celles prévues au règlement de tournage et également qu'elle nécessite des fermetures de rue, compte tenu que le tournage a lieu en janvier et que les fermetures de rue que les rues fermées seront possiblement moins achalandées à cette période qu'à l'été, et considérant les possibles bénéfices que ceci peut apporter, que la venue d'un tournage peut apporter pour les commerçants. La résolution vise à autoriser le tournage du 24 au 26 janvier 2023 et d'autoriser les fermetures de rue selon l'horaire proposé par la production et aux conditions énoncées par la Ville pour engendrer le moins de dérangements possible.
Merci. So, as discussed, we'll ask for the extra verification authorization of the IGA and Castle Hardware. Thank you. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Darren Legault moves, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. This resolution is adopted unanimously. Item 5, question period. Are there any questions in the room? There are none, and none online. So moving to item number 6, adjournment of the meeting. I will need a mover, Reed Thompson, and a seconder, Peter Mate, that the meeting be adjourned at 9:25. Are there any objections with this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously.
Well done.
Thank you, everyone, and I'm wishing you a happy holiday. Stay safe, stay warm, and we will see you in 2023. Thank you.